Batman, the animated series, is by far the best Batman cartoon out there. No remakes have managed to surpass it, though some might have come close. This cartoon was inspired by the two Tim Burton movies that came out shortly before it. The Tim Burton movies were Batman and Batman Returns, and those movies were in turn inspired by the comic book of Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns. So, Batman the Animated Series had quite a rich history and legacy behind it. So, it eventually ended, though, in 1995, and then a spin-off was made in 1997. And, for the most part, the spin-off regained the old glory of the original. Well, this continuation underwent some animation changes and some reimagined character design. I'm going to do 13 comparisons between the old and the new to see which one holds up better. Number 1, the Penguin. Well, in Batman the Animated Series, the Penguin was a deformed freak, taking after his portrayal in Batman Returns. It was a portrayal that worked for the movie, and it also worked for the cartoon. It did deviate quite a bit from the comic book version by showing a more animalistic side to him. Well, the new Batman adventures, they took the Penguin and changed his physique quite a bit. They turned him into a short, fat person, and he was more refined. And that version was more true to the comic books. His flipper hands were gone, and he was just less animal-like. Well, the deformed version of the Penguin gave him more character and made him less goofy, you know, than his comic book version. So I like the original, the twist that the original gave to it. So the original wins. Number 2, it's going to be Catwoman. Well, a lot of us have probably forgotten her original Catwoman suit from the first appearance, and it's for good reason. It was corny, it was goofy, and it was silly. But it's probably her skin-tight burglar outfit that we all know and greatly appreciate, especially Batman, I'm sure. Batman the Animated Series put her in a gray and black outfit which looked stylish and made her hot. Even hotter, I dare say, than the Batman Returns version. She had an interesting character who played a good love interest for Batman, you know, and she seemed to have a special connection with felines, which was a quite cool touch, you know. In the spin-off, they gave her a completely black outfit and gave her a more or less pale face, very much like the Batman Returns version. But they made her seem younger and more flirty, and she seemed to act more like a slut. And it took away from her older personality, which had more honor. So once again, I have to side with the original. Number 3 will be Scarecrow, the Master of Fear. His name is quite self-explanatory. Batman the Animated Series took to the comic book version quite well, giving him the scruffy costume and skinny physique. He was quite edgy at times, but wasn't completely scary. I mean, who would be frightened of Ichabod Crane in a shaggy outfit? Well, did you ever notice that the Scarecrow's real name is also Crane, you know? And I guess we know where he was inspired from. In the spin-off, however, they completely just redid his design. They gave him a darker costume with more shadows. They changed his mask to, hell, I don't know what it is, but it sure was creepy. He was definitely scarier and more intimidating. His voice was cold and quiet. It was even hard to tell if he was in a costume or simply deformed somehow. Well, even though the spin-off version deviated from the comic book quite a bit, I think it was a turn for the better, and they made him scarier, and that's the point. So, in this one, the spin-off wins. Number 4, the Riddler. The Riddler is probably one of the most overlooked Batman villains ever. I mean, attempts to make him badass have definitely failed. What the hell? Well, Batman the Animated Series gave the truest interpretation of him. He wore his classic green suit and hat that made him look smart and sophisticated.
His personality was also perfect for the character, since he was polite yet obsessed. The spin-off butchered him, and they made him bold and skinny as a stick. He now wore spandex, reminiscent of that version. Ugh. Well, they took away his mask and gave him black eyeliner? Yeah, they butchered him. The original definitely wins. And of course you may be wondering, well, Riddler is just one of those goofy Batman villains, but if you think about it, if they can take a guy in a blue and gray outfit and make him into a badass in black armor, I'm sure they can take the Riddler and make him badass also, if they put effort into it. Okay, number 5, Killer Croc. Well, Killer Croc is probably one of Batman's most dense villains. As far as I could gather from Batman the Animated Series, I haven't read any of the comic books about him, so I don't know. Well, he is still quite threatening in the cartoon. He was given a gray, bumpy skin and a cool reptilian jaw. He also had a tough, gnarled voice that sounded wild, and like an animal, you know? But in the remake, they turned his skin to green and gave him cheaper animation design. His voice was also changed to sound more normal and less wild. I guess they made him more true to the comic books, that's my guess, but I still prefer the original. I guess it's nostalgic to me. Anyways, number 6 is Bane, greatly known for breaking the bat in the comics. This guy is badass. They also managed to recapture it in the animated series. He had that cool accent. I don't know what accent it is, but it's cool. And he had that cool wrestler costume from the comics. And the muscle venom. It was a pity they did not get more screen time, but we enjoyed the screen time he did get. In a spin-off, they made his costume darker and added a cool spiked collar to his neck. Yeah, they basically made him more badass than he already was. So, other than his costume, his personality stayed the same. Pretty cool. So, in this case, the spin-off wins.